Welcome to the Bo and Luke Show, a podcast designed to inspire you to be better, know better, and do better. You can connect with Bo and Luke on social media at The Bo and Luke Show, or send us an email at fanfeedback@theboandlukeshow.com. Brought to you by Sound United. Without further ado, let's get after it. Bo and Luke Nation, welcome to another episode of the Bo and Luke Show. And today we have one incredible guest. His name is Harvey Ross. Harvey is an activist and community organizer in the Milwaukee area for the disabled community specifically. Harvey, we just want to say welcome to the show. It's great to have you. Let's do a little introduction about yourself and we'll go from there.
Oh, and thanks for having me. Well, my name is Harvey Ross. I just turned 48 a couple of weeks ago, September the 10th.
Oh, happy birthday, belated.
Well, thanks. I'm originally from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! And we moved here to Milwaukee when I was 15. I was a 3-sport athlete at one point in time.
Wow.
And I ended up getting my spinal cord injury due to a gunshot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I got shot. The bullet is actually lodged at the C2 vertebrae in my neck, so I actually should be dead.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, it's still in there?
Yeah.
Wow.
How old were you when that happened?
19.
Now, was this were you still in Chicago or were you in Milwaukee?
No, this happened in Milwaukee.
Happened in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you, is that something you want to get into? Do you want to talk about how that happened or?
Oh, it's fine. I mean, what happened was that I was in a relationship with, I have 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a relationship with their mother in high school. And the relationship was, a high school relationship. Her father didn't really want her dating or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the 2 years of the relationship that we had, there were, I want to say, maybe 3 occasions where the altercations we had got physical. And her father approached me at one point, about the situation. And we had a conversation. It didn't lead into anything. So what ended up happening is one day, and I remember this day because it was Easter Sunday. Me and a friend of mine were one of my best friends. We were down at the Marquette campus here, the college here, playing basketball with some of the Marquette teams. Like we knew, I was really close friends with one of the guys who played with Marquette's brothers, so I knew them all well.
Mm-hmm.
And I after we were done, I went to visit her at her auntie's house. And when I got there, she had been looking for me or whatever, and this and that. And she, she started accusing me cheating on her or whatever. So in the midst of that, she got angry and she attacked me, which is, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing big. And my friend was like, come on, man, let's leave. So apparently this is what I got the secondhand story after I woke up in ICU and before I ended up going to rehab. So the rehab unit is that in the midst of all this, her cousin got on the phone, called over to her parents' house and got their answer machine. And I guess her father ended up getting the message somehow. So as we were leaving out the house, I'm literally walking off the porch. She grabs the back of my jacket that I had on. And I snatch away from her and she falls into the grass. At this very moment, her father pulls up. He gets out the car. He walks into the middle of the street. And in my mind, being a 19-year-old athletic individual, I'm saying to myself, oh, he comes over here. I'm whooping his ass.
Sure.
And he turns back around, he goes in the car and he gets a gun. Again, me being 19, thinking whatever, I turned my back to him.
Wow.
So he started walking closer and I could hear my friend yelling, like, it don't have to be like this or whatever. So as I got ready to turn back around, because he had a revolver, so you could hear him cock the hammer on the gun.
Uh-huh.
As I began to turn back around, all I saw is like fire coming from the barrel of the gun. And then all I could remember is like, when you watch movies,
uh-huh.
A lot of times in movies, they show people when they're dying or something happened, and it starts in slow motion, like right then and there, everything was in slow motion. It was a good thing that I was standing in the grass because I lost all mobility. and I fell face first on my face. And like I died on the way to the hospital in an ambulance. They brought me back. And then while I was in the hospital originally, the first 2 months, I ended up getting pneumonia because I couldn't move at all. And I was on, feeding tubes and stuff like that. And I died again and I had to get brought back. So that's the gist of what happened.
Wow.
Holy shit, Harvey.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wow. And that was, my gosh, that was almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, and it doesn't even seem like it, but you go through. But someone said to me once, and I always like carry this with me to this day. They said, "You really haven't lived unless you experience some tragedy."
Yeah,
and yeah,
I would agree with that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what good is until bad has really hit you.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I mean, as terrible as that is, do you think, look, we're all about being better personally here on this show. Do you think that positive things came from your life because of it? As hard as, because look, nobody wants to go through that. That sucks, man. I'm sorry you did. But long term, everyone has their own journey. I guess my question is, and this is a broad question, but what did that mean to you in your life?
Well, initially when it happened, you have a person, an able-bodied person as I'm walking around who, in my life before my injury, of course, I made fun of people with disabilities and, this is just, who we are. And then, I'm wanting to die, but in the big scheme of things, if I spent 3 to 4 years being really depressed, where I wouldn't leave the house. The only time I would leave the house is just to go to doctor's appointments and physical therapy. And then one day, my mother, me and my brother, we moved downstairs. So we had the bottom of the duplex, and my mother and my sister stayed upstairs. And at that point, I'm at home. I'm sitting around, not really doing anything. I can't move too much of my own. My mother came downstairs one day and she asked me, she said, "Is this it?" And she turned back around and went upstairs. Now, me being who I am, I didn't say it to my mother's face, but is this bitch crazy? What do you mean, is this it? Did you not see what's going on here? So I was able to go back to peer support on the floor at the hospital here. I started meeting people who were living life literally to the fullest. And some people were worse off than if however you want to look at that, were worse off than I was. So then you start asking yourself, how long are you going to play a victim? And it got to the point that I was like, yeah, if I allow my disability at this point to beat me, then I've lost.
Yep.
So one thing that it did, I'm a way better person for my injury. And I tell people that all the time. If it wasn't for my injury, regardless of me playing sports and stuff like that, I'd probably be dead or in jail.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and it's given me a different perspective on life.
Have you been a mentor to other kids that are out there as well?
Yeah, initially when I first got injured, the hospital here is called Freighter. It's one of the best spinal cord injury hospitals in the country. They had me going around to high school students and middle school students, talking to them about, violence and people with spinal cord injury. Because, on TV, most of the time you hear, or even if you're watching movies, all you hear about, if somebody gets shot or whatever through violence, they either die or they survive. No one talks about the whole spinal cord injury aspects of that. And there's so many, especially minority men who are in wheelchairs these days due to gun violence, literally.
Yeah.
And so, no, I have had a great opportunity to do mentoring with, people, not just even minority people who have gotten spinal cord injuries through gun violence, but just people in general who's dealing with disabilities. And where I work at now, I work at a place called Independence First. We're the third largest independent living center in the country.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And we service 4 different counties here in Wisconsin, and we work with people with disabilities in general.
Well, and I think there's a huge population out there that America doesn't know about. I've done a lot of sales in my life, all about staffing and recruiting. That doesn't matter to the story at all. But I used to work a lot for skilled nursing facilities around the country. And I went and visited one in Dallas one time. And we're not talking about amazing places where you go to retire, right? We're talking about government funded, listeners, they're nursing homes. They're called skilled nursing facilities. And I went in there and I expected to see old people. I was 26, 27 years old, flew down to Dallas, a young guy. This was the biggest shock of my life because there were very few old people in there. You know what? There were a ton of gunshot victims, which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Now to hear you talk about this, I'm kind of getting flashbacks as to like what I saw. And I don't want to say like the horror of it or anything, but there are folks in there that are in really bad shape. And I'm talking kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in a way with me being, I'm listed as a C6, C7 incomplete quadriplegic. And that's just due to the fact that I have functioning and feeling below my level of injury. Like I can move my arms and stuff like that. I don't have full dexterity in my fingers, but I'm incomplete due because to where the injury happened at, I have movement below that. And that's because the bullet is literally pressing against my vertebrae, which is pushing against my spinal cord. It didn't sever my spinal cord in half, so they stabilized it. So I have a lot of nerve pain, but I also have sensation and movement below my injury. You see people,
Gotcha.
and I guess it's different. It's all got to do with perspective, because I run into a lot of paras who are just like paralyzed from the waist down, and all they ever talk about is walking again. I want to walk again, and this and that, and it's just like, it makes me mad sometimes because I say to myself, you really don't understand how good you have.
Yeah.
But I have to pull back on that sometimes. I say to myself, well, if I would have got shot and I would have ended up a para, I probably was thinking the same thing. But because I got shot, my disability, if you want to call it is worse, or I have less functioning. My main goal after I got injured was never to walk again. It was to be able to do what paras do, to live independently and do stuff on my own.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one thing I find super interesting, Harvey, and you probably see it even around Milwaukee. I've seen it. I've lived in different countries and lived around this country, and I see it everywhere, even to this day. Places where we go on a daily basis, I don't care if it's retail, the mall, the hospital, well, maybe not the hospital, but buildings, office buildings, you name it, when we're out and about, they're still not equipped to this day to handle, even if you just say wheelchair access.
Right.
It's not. People in wheelchair drive cars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get gas, but you go to the gas station and there's not even a button to open the door. And that just always, I'm like, you know what? It is 2020 and we still don't even have that right. It's crazy.
One of my biggest, when I have a conversation with people, is that one of my biggest things that I say to people all the time is like, it's 2020. Everything in this world is evolving, the technology and everything. The only thing that is not evolving is human beings.
Yeah. That's right.
Like, I really don't see any difference between us from 1980 into 2020. We still behave in the same manner, and we still do like things that you would think that, and believe in things that you say to yourself, like, if we were kids, okay, it's understandable. Like, they're just kids, they don't know any better. But we full-blown adults, and we're supposed to know better, but we don't act like we do.
Yeah. Yeah, that holds true in so many aspects of life and what's happening in the world and in the country today. So that kind of leads into the some of the work that you've been doing recently in the Milwaukee area and trying to get the disabled community and other folks, getting them access to march, to protest, to get involved, to speak up and have their voice heard and be part of the activity, which is so needed in this country. And it's one of our constitutional protections, the right to protest. Right. So when you think about, hell, you can't even get access to a gas station, on a regular basis. How are they even being taken care of to get access to do those types of things and participate in society the way they should be able to participate? So tell our listeners, and Luke and I, some of that work you've been doing over the past year, from what I've read, because I think that's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, what happened initially when all this stuff with the George Floyd murder and stuff, and then once they started like protesting all over the country,
mm-hmm.
Me and three other coworkers of mine / friends organized. We said, we haven't seen anything with people with disabilities being able to participate in protest. And because where I work at, we go to our state capitol every year, and we also go to DC every year and lobby to our legislators about laws for people with disabilities. So we decided to try to make an accessible march here in Milwaukee. And when I tell we thought about doing this on a Tuesday.
Huh.
Interesting. And we pulled it off that Saturday? No, we pulled it off that Sunday. We pulled it off. I have never in my life been in a situation, whether it was college or whatever, we had to do a project together, and it went so smoothly that it was insane.
Yeah. Wow.
What they did was they mapped out a way where there would be most of the surfacing would be flat. So you don't have to worry about people who had to push wheelchairs or walk canes or walkers. There wouldn't be a lot of stress where they have to go up hills and stuff like that. Then they made it to the point of, we got it to the point of where we started like down by the lake here in Milwaukee. And we went through the downtown area. And what they did was we had nurses on call, just in case anybody needed a nurse. We had interpreters for the deaf community to come, and they also made sure that we had like crowd control cars, the cars that go ahead to block off things like that.
Yeah.
Made sure we had that done. We made sure that we had loudspeakers for everybody to talk to one another. And then other people had walkie-talkies. And the Milwaukee Bucks was supposed to join us that day, but they did an early morning march with the other group that was here. And what happened was that part of that group met with us, and then we met up after the Bucks got done marching, I think around like 2:30. We didn't start until like 3:30 or whatever. But it was a big march, and the rest of the community. There's a guy that he's been on the news. They actually marched from here to DC. Frank Nitty, the guy here, had marched from here to DC. His group met up with us, and then we just continued to march, and we marched all the way to the police department that's downtown here. And then we were going to march back by ourselves, but the other group followed us along. And we was along the way, we had time to sit and talk about like what we were doing. And also, sometimes during the march, and this is because people don't know, they was using words that were not like disability community friendly. So we had to correct them, but they were totally with the corrections, and we just used those chants or whatever in the march.
Nice. What was some of the feedback or comments that people who participated and they actually had an opportunity to march once that happened on that Sunday? What was some of the feedback those folks gave you and gave the other three that were helping put this all together?
Well, the feedback was great, and actually we got interviewed. I got interviewed with the Journal Sentinel here. And it went out like across the country, and I ended up talking to some people in Los Angeles, because we did the first accessible march in the country, period. It was done here.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was good feedback. And I think that we lose sight of, like when it comes to discrimination, I think people who have disabilities get left behind regardless of the color of your skin or anything else. Yeah. And it's like whether we're a forgotten like entity of society. And, it's a shame that it's a shame that anyone, regardless of what community you have to go out and march and protest in the first place to get
Yeah.
what we all really wanted. That in the big scheme of things, regardless of where you're coming from, is equality.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's looking for. And it's a shame that we are putting in the group. And one thing that I said when we were marching, and like we got joined, some of the people from the LGBTQ community joined us and stuff like that. And there were people that were upset, saying that they were hijacking the protest and the march. And I'm like, no, the more the merrier. So you don't think there's people with disabilities that's in the LGBTQ community?
Sure.
What are we doing? And it bothers me because I think that we can get more done, regardless of like where someone may stand with someone's personal preference of what they're doing. But I think that at some point in this society, we're gonna have to get over with all these labels, whether you're being labeled black, white, or whatever, and do it all that. I mean, if we did this collectively, instead of have all the little small groups protesting this month and that month, no, because they're all looking for the same thing, equality. If we could do all this at once, it wouldn't be any marching and protesting. And I think I did 2 interviews with the New York Times that haven't got published yet. and I think because sometimes I'm too real.
Yeah, they're probably holding them for the right time, you know?
Right. And the crazy thing about it is that when people bring up rioting and looting within the protest, yes, no one wants rioting and looting and protest. No, that we want peaceful protest. And my gripe is I tell people all the time, you know, if our government was really doing their job, there would be no protesting. And the only time we have rioting and looting is when there's protest. So it's easy to fix this.
Yeah.
Equality for everybody. We don't have protest and we don't have rioting and looting.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. So, and Bo and I have talked about this just offline in the past multiple times. You know, we both agree. I don't know how you feel about it, but I want to pose this question to you. We think tribalism is just destroying this country, that you have to be one side or the other. So I'll tell you right now, Bo and I didn't protest, right? We weren't out there. We watched it on TV. You did. If you were to watch this on TV, you'd think that you, me, and Bo could not have a conversation right now because we'd be on separate sides. But here we are having a great conversation as good people and expressing views in a respectful way. Why is it that we can do this on a one-on-one basis, but when it gets to us as a group of people, we just seem to split up into factions?
And I think a lot of that is driven by media sometimes. And then you got to think about your upbringing and what you just said with tribalism. Everybody, with the way society is shaped, everybody wants to be a part of something.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody wants whatever they're a part of wants to be the best thing to be a part of. Like I argue, a lot of my friends they tell me that I'm a Republican because the way of my train of thought sometimes. But I tell people all the time that I'm not a Republican or a Democrat because there's some things that Democrats say that I totally agree with. There's some things that the Republicans say that I totally agree with.
Yeah.
And I think in any situation that you're in, whether you're on one side or another, the best place to be in is in the middle because that's where the truth is.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I say that all the time. You know, if you're a moderate Democrat or you're a moderate Republican, you're the same person.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're right in the middle. But you know, Luke, Harvey made a comment, you know, like we wouldn't have protests and rioting, looting follows the protests. You wouldn't have protests in the first place if the government was actually doing what they should be doing. I think that's a huge point. That could be numerous. That could be a whole series of podcasts because you see it all the time. They have the lowest approval ratings ever of probably any profession out there. And I don't care what they say, but the propaganda on both sides and the concern, it's ridiculous. And the concern about getting reelected, there's more concern about getting reelected than there is about doing the job. And I tell you, Harvey, the only place I've personally seen where and this is state government, seems to work and the state actually does well all the time regardless of what administration holds the governorship, and that's Virginia. Luke lives there now. I used to live there. And the only reason that is, I've only pinpointed down to one thing. The governor cannot run for re-election. It's one term. It's 1 4-year term. So there's no running.
Really?
Yes, there's no running for re-election. And when you look at the history of who's, whether it's a Republican or Democrat in charge, it rotates. It very frequently just rotates. And guess what? Virginia seems to prosper and do well across the whole state on a consistent basis. It's amazing.
I did not know. That's something that I did not know.
I didn't know it either until I lived there. And I'm like, what? He doesn't get to run for re-election? That kind of explains things, right?
And and I think in the big scheme of things, that's the issue, that we know we have career politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that our government is corrupt because the corporate America has their hands in their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And we go out and vote and hope that they do what we ask them to do as our employees, because that's what they are. But if you got people like Jeff Bezos and all these other people putting money in their pocket, they're doing what they're asking them to do. And then we as citizens don't get the things that we really need.
Right.
And it's almost like you can't. How can you continue if our government is corrupt? How can you keep going to a corrupt system asking for something good?
Well, it's because our local governments suck and they don't make any money. Like, there's no incentive to put the best minds in society into actually improving society. Could you imagine if we look at the local community? So we look at Milwaukee. I'll refer to it as Wrigley North.
For sure, that's what it is. You're right. Absolutely.
That's right. So if Wrigley North, if they were incentivized by bonuses based on the well-being of the population of Milwaukee and the prosperity of Milwaukee, you would have people, the brightest minds in society, going to lead the individual communities. And I'm sorry, no, but I don't care if it's Trump, Biden, whoever it is, whoever gets voted into the presidency is not gonna make that big of a difference in Wrigley North.
It's
right. And we're getting like the lowest paid person that just wants to do something for an altruistic reason, and then they have to take care of their family. And there's the big problem in how it's set up, because we're not putting the best and brightest minds on the problem that's closest to solving the problem. Right.
Right.
I'm digressing a lot, man. Like, I don't know if we're going to boil the ocean on the Bo and Luke show, but we're getting there.
No, I think it's people like Harvey, and it's like our guest 2 weeks ago, Brandon Paulin, who's, ran for mayor at 19 years old and got elected.
That was cool.
In his community. I mean, that's where it's happening. And that's the only place where real change, impactful change is going to happen, because that's where you live. That's what matters. And that's your community. And the more folks who can get out and participate in the community without discrimination, regardless of race, religion, disability, gender, you name it, the better off we'll be as a society.
I agree with that.
And I think that, and that's my thing with with voting and everything. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I put my ballot in the mail today, but I told my friends and my like the people I organize with, the only reason I'm really voting is because you all want me to. Because to be perfectly honest, I don't like either of the candidates.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I don't think that it's right for me to be, it's like if I go in the grocery store and there's nothing in this grocery store that I want, but before you leave, we need you to buy something. So you just have to choose something that you don't like as much as the other one.
Yeah, that was a great analogy. I love that. Yeah. Pick the thing you like you dislike the least, right?
Can we just have a better choice, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. The answer is no, you cannot have a better choice.
That takes me back
We
to
haven't had a good choice in 20. I don't know when, the 20 years. I don't even know. I'm 37. I don't know when the best
Everybody,
choice was.
and this sounds crazy coming from an African American man, but everybody thought Obama was a good choice, and he was. What did he do? I think he, but I think people think that the president, when Obama became president, he was African American. I think the African American community thought that, oh, we have an African American where he's a black president. He's gonna do stuff for the president, for the black community. I keep trying to tell people that the president is the president of the United States, not just one group.
That's right.
He's doing what's best for America.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing that you can do is what we do locally,
right?
And try to get the people in office locally instead of just worrying about it. There's some people who only vote because they want to pick between the president.
Yeah.
And it's just that's not the biggest, he's not the big fish that we should be trying to catch.
No. Yeah. But I mean, Bo worked in the White House underneath two different presidents. So Bo, you tell us, right, how much power to do whatever they want does the president really have?
Exactly. Please. Yes, Bo.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's almost like it's the question that really doesn't have to be answered because they don't. They are in a role. They are a government employee. The White House is government quarters.
Do they get to choose what they want to have for dinner? Do they at least get that?
Of course.
Okay. Well, that's good.
They can decorate their quarters and they can change the curtains and all that kind of stuff. Right. But I was just having a discussion yesterday with someone about that. And you think about it, even from security, right? Even the president doesn't just get to go do whatever he wants to do. Right. There's a whole plan. And if Secret Service can't protect him, then they're gonna call the shots, and they're gonna say, no, you're not gonna walk down that beach, right? Or something, right? It's yes, it's the most powerful office in the world for sure, but there's such a huge team around that bubble that I agree with Harvey 100%. That is just not where we the people are going to get things done.
And I mean, what I want to say is, like, when people think that they have that much power, they don't even have the power to wave a magic wand and make Harvey's life better. They don't. Like that can be done at a local level, I think. But even if they wanted to, if any president were to come in and say, I'm going to make Harvey's life better, do they have that power? I don't think they do.
No.
And I argue with people all the time when they keep saying Trump, Trump, Trump. I'm like, Trump is not doing this by himself. His name is out there. You honestly believe that Donald Trump has all this power? He does not. You really, people like, we got to get him out of office. We got to get him out of office. So we get Trump out of office. You think the world's going to change?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I like about Trump, and I think this is a Chicago spirit that I have in me. I think you'll like this, Harvey, is that he makes a different decision, whether it's good or bad, and then we get to see what happens and then learn from it, right? Because like people in Chicago, Bo, if you've been to Chicago,
wait.
If you're in Chicago, if something's not working, you just change it. You just start doing something different, right? For better or worse, you just start. Unless it's the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, then you
oh Lord have mercy.
Shitty choice that you had.
Yeah, you got to stick with that, huh?
Yeah. And other than that, though, we change it up. And I like seeing stuff either succeed or fail, or something happen. At least something change.
Yeah. At least it's taking action.
Harvey's cracking up in the background.
It's the guy, to me, a philosopher said this, and I keep hinting on it. And it's the honest. Like, I do a lot of meditation. I don't watch like a lot of TV and stuff like that. I watch like documentary stuff like that. But this philosopher said that you can tell how intelligent a society is by what entertains them. And if you think about what entertained us, the things that entertains us in this country.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I can get it.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. Harvey, this has been an amazing conversation. This is awesome. We love it.
Yeah, you all are great guys.
I appreciate that.
Tony I know you through Tony.
Yeah. So how did you, let's talk about, we're on air, so it's not like we're talking behind his back because he'll hear this. So, so how did you meet Tony Estes? He was on season 1.
Yes. Tony actually is from Chicago also.
Uh-huh.
When we moved here from Chicago, Tony them were already here and they live right next door to us. Tony is, I want to say like 3 years older than I am. So him and my older brother were friends. And that's how I met Tony. And then he ended up going off to the Army, then moving to Los Angeles, and I had got injured in between that time. And so we stay in contact here and there. And then I hadn't heard from him in a while. And then he got on social media. We started talking to each other about stuff. I mean, he does a lot of like writing for screenplays and stuff like that. So we had these conversations and he was talking to me and I thought about doing some political stuff here one time. I was like, I should try to run for office or something here. Yeah. Some kind of thing. And I was talking to him about it. So we thought about that and I said to myself, do I want to put my foot into that thing? Because I don't know how to lie to people and I don't know how to song and dance with people. Yeah. And I don't know how they'll kill me before they do anything. That's
another episode.
I'd vote for you. I'd vote for Harvey.
Yeah, I would too. You want the real, that's what you want. You want real people with who are natural, raw. Give it to you like it is, for sure. Yeah, we love Tony. That was a great episode. His his values of going after stuff, is just impeccable. And he's my brother in arms. He'll be my brother forever. Served in our first duty assignment, or my first duty assignment in the Army together.
Okay.
Yeah, worked in the same office. So that it's great to connect with him and have him on the show, and he connected us with you. So we really appreciate it. Harvey, is there even for the company you work for today, is it a nonprofit?
Yes.
So before we let you go, can you tell our listeners again the name of the company, and is there a way for them to find your company online if they wanted to donate to your company, or any cause that you have passionate about? You can feel free to share that.
Well, the name of the company that I work for here in Milwaukee is called Independence First.
Okay.
We have a website that people can go visit, and if they want to donate, we're also connected with like the United Way. Things like that. So you can always go to the Independence First website. It's independencefirst.org, that you can go and look on there and see, all the things we offer for people in the disability community, stuff like that. And I mean, that's the biggest thing that I would. And I mean, outside of that, the only thing that I would like, for people to, I don't know. I don't ever think we're going back to whatever quote unquote normal was before COVID. I don't see that happen. But I try. The biggest thing that any human being can do in life is something for someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if let's just try that and see what happens for the rest of our lives. And see what happens. So.
Yep.
That would be it. I don't have much more to promote or anything like that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Those are inspiring words, and I know our listeners will appreciate it. So we thank you very much, and hope you have a great week. Appreciate all that you do, 100%.
And thank both of you all for having me on.
Man, thank you for being you, man, and sharing this journey. I really hope, hearing you say that we're never going to get back to normal. I hope that it gets back to normal enough to where if Bo and I are ever in Milwaukee, we can catch a Cubs Brewers game together. And
that'd be dope.
Yeah, that would be good.
Have a beer or something together and just, break bread with some cool people. So thank you, man. It's great meeting you.
All right. You too.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, Harvey. Bo and Luke Nation, that's a wrap. Tune in for a new episode every Thursday. You can subscribe to our email newsletter for information on upcoming guests, giveaways, and more. Rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to our sponsor, Sound United, for quality broadcast audio throughout Season 2.